So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast and a preview where Aston Villa return to Rotterdam. The scene of the crime, Paddy, or the scene of the elation. I don't know which way you want to put it, but back to Rotterdam, the return to Rotterdam. Villa play Feyenoord this Thursday in the Europa League, and I'll just sit here on my own in FOMO while you're in the kite, Paddy, because you lucky bastard, you get to go over and you get to watch it.
Yeah, I'm particularly looking forward to it because, as you know, I've a particular fondness for Feyenoord, and I've only ever seen Feyenoord play away from home. So I've never actually been to the Kuip or Feyenoord Stadium, I think they call it now, to give it its official title. So I get to kill two birds with the one stone. I get to see my beloved Aston Villa play in Europe away from home for the first time in 27 years.
Did you not go away from home? Oh no, you wanted to go to Paris last year, but you didn't get there.
Missed out in Paris, missed out in Leipzig, couldn't get tickets, so I've got tickets for this one. So really looking forward to the trip this week. So I think the last away trip I went to was Atletico Madrid, if memory serves me correct.
Interesting.
Atletico
Madrid
I'm not
for that game.
It definitely came after Strom's got set that year. Yeah, but yeah, that's a story for another day. That
did
was
you go to Strom's got set?
I did. I loved it. I went to Strom's got set on the plane with the team back then. That's how mad things were at the time. But anyway, that was a bizarre trip when you're sitting on the plane coming back with the team, drinking tiny little cans of beer, and many of them. It's good fun.
Yeah, it's I'd imagine so. A different time for sure back in the 90s. So yeah, look, I suppose this is a game of high emotion. You know, like last year we got to play Bayern Munich in the Champions League, which obviously was great for us being back in the league, back in the top table again, and playing the team that we beat to have our most famous night. And then this year we get to play in the stadium where that famous night happened. And you know, Aston Villa are on a bit of an upward trajectory. I suppose 2 wins in a row. You would have to call it that, considering how we started. We will be playing a bit in a moment. Actually, there's about 20 minutes coming. We're playing a video for about 20 minutes from the wonderful Michael Statham from Football Aranya. I had a great chat with him last night as well. So we'll be talking. He'll give us the rundown on Feyenoord in that. But Paddy, how do you think Villa are going to like? Obviously, the spirits must be a small bit higher going into this game, considering what we've seen.
Yeah, you'd have to think after, you know, they got a job done on Thursday night, and then managed to score 3 goals at the weekend, which was great. Going into this competition, we know, look, you only had to look at Unai Emery's interviews pre-Bologna to see his eyes light up, to see how much he loves playing in Europe. We'll be ready for this tomorrow night. It's going to be an absolutely raucous atmosphere. I'm just so looking forward to it. I keep saying tomorrow night. It's Thursday night. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we cope with that atmosphere. It'll be, I would imagine, it'll be on the scale of what PSG threw at us over PSG. Oh, jeez, I'm losing track of myself here now altogether. But that was an unbelievable atmosphere in that PSG stadium. A lot of it fabricated by a fella on the microphone, but they managed to make it very raucous, and I would imagine that we were going to be going into something similar. They don't have any great love for English clubs in Holland, as everyone knows. So everyone be careful out there and look after yourselves. But it's going to be emotional for everybody going back to. Let's face it, there'll only be a scattering of people who will have been there in 1982 and then there again tomorrow. So it'll be emotional for them to go back and experience this in a much different looking stadium than what it was in 1982, and a much fuller stadium than it was in 1982 as well, because we all know there was a lot of empty seats there in Rotterdam. So I've gone completely around the houses here, but yes, I do believe that it's going to be a better performance than we have been. It's all ramping up to this, and we've got the 2 wins under our belt will really stand to us. I expect to see a couple of changes as he tends to do in Europe. What they are, I have absolutely no idea, but I look forward to seeing what he comes up with in order to put it up to Feyenoord, which I'm hoping should be easy enough done. Robin van Persie's Feyenoord, by the way, as I'm sure you'll hear them being called over the next few days. But the stars aren't as much there as they used to be with Feyenoord. There was always 1 or 2 in there, really good players over the years, but they're probably scattered with a number of young people now that are trying to feel their way around the Eredivisie. So I expect us to go there and win the game, regardless of who he puts out. But maybe that's just me being full of blind hope and being full of Dutch beer on Thursday, and looking forward to having a good day out on Thursday that I've been waiting for a long time.
We will hear an awful lot about that Feyenoord side here from Michael in a moment. There's actually, I'm going to play a video on this. It's. I was going to put it out separately, but I think it's interesting that we might all listen to it together. It's about 20 minutes of me chatting to Michael, and at the very start, I misspeak, as is my way when I'm pumped to the gills on medication for this cold at the moment. I misspeak saying that we didn't draw Go Ahead Eagles, but we did. I meant to say we weren't playing Go Ahead Eagles because he's wearing the Go Ahead Eagles jersey in the video. So I must mention that as well. But yeah, Feyenoord, Robin van Persie's Feyenoord. One thing we do mention is that Van Persie has had a, how will I put it, almost like he's given 2 fingers to the media at times in Holland and the Netherlands, I suppose, and against Braga, like the last 1-0 to Braga. But if you look at that team, there's quite a lot of changes in that team, and he did it because he was sick of being asked when all these new signings were going to start. When are you going to play the new signings? And they're flying high in the Eredivisie, and they've got a Japanese striker away that's playing up top who has 6 goals scored already in the league. He only scored 7 goals the year before, so he's got him home and Michael speaks about him. But Van Persie just basically went, fine, you want to see the new guys? Start them all against Braga, and he more or less did. So just bear that in mind that when you're looking back at that Braga game, we'll hear more about that. But on the Villa side of things, Paddy, I know we haven't had any press conferences back yet or anything like that, but do you think there's going to be press conferences about any injuries or anything like that? Do you think there's going to be any injuries or any good injury news or any players back for this one? I just don't see players coming into the squad for this away trip. I'd say that if there was somebody who was touch and go, they'd probably be held back for Burnley at the weekend. I get more of a feeling that's more what he would do.
I tend to agree with you there. I think if anybody is like, for example, Tyrone Mings, we believe is not too bad. I don't think he travels. I think he plays Pau Torres as he does in Europe anyway. But I would believe and expect that having got the win on the first day, we could have potentially afford a slip up. Not that I bloody want to slip up. So the priority this week is to get through the game tomorrow, hopefully with 3 points, and definitely get 3 points at the weekend, because I think that's an absolute must in our season. But this could be a week that we look back and see these 4 games that have really kick-started us into action, and hopefully playing players into form, which he has tried to do for the first month of the season. Hopefully will eventually kick in, and we see better performances from certain players. I'm not going to go down that road at this stage, because you've got to talk to Michael as well, so we need time to put that in. But there will be changes, I would imagine. We might see Malin start this one. I would imagine, as I said, Torres will start instead of Mings. I expect to see Marco Bizot. Who knows after that? Does he risk Tielemans? Does he risk Kamara? Who knows? You just can't second guess what this manager will do. Similar to Robin van Persie, just not quite as salty as Robin van Persie.
Yeah, I think Ian Matson. I think Ian Matson might get the start in his home country.
You forget how many Dutch people we have there.
Yeah, quite a few. Lamar Bogart in there, might be pushing for a start considering what happened at the weekend. Although with Kamara there, I think Kamara probably comes in. Wouldn't rule out Bogart starting it right back tomorrow night. There's quite a lot of different kind of permutations that would come in there. I personally would start Ollie Watkins in this just because I want him to, the way he's a streaky player. He's after getting his goal. He's barely had a touch of the ball in the previous 4 games. I'd probably start him up top, but I'd probably start Daniel Mallon on the right-hand side. It's much of a muchness, I think. Obviously he's favoured Gassand in that position previously, probably because of the work he does backwards and forwards there as well, and particularly going backwards. But I could see maybe Gassand getting sat down or having a period on the bench for this game. There's we're getting more and more players back, so we can have a little bit of a shuffle of the pack. I wonder, does he continue to start to use Buendia as an impact sub or as somebody he can bring on to change his tactics? That'll be interesting to see. Or does he start him on that left hand side? I don't like him on that left hand side, but I'm not quite sure that he's the physicality to play in the middle. And with this Feyenoord team, they are pretty physical. They're a pretty physical team. As Mark Wood said in the comments there a moment ago, they have not conceded at home this season. And that's correct. They haven't conceded at home this season yet in their division. Now, they've played 3 games there. They've scored 5. They've conceded none. They've conceded 4 goals away from home. They're unbeaten at home this season in their division. And they sit on top of the league as well. So, they're a formidable outfit, and you'd expect them to be, because they've got they're one of the big 3 in that league. You've got PSV, you've got Feyenoord, you've got Ajax, but they've been the poor relation in previous years as well. So it's good to see them back on their feet again, but let's see them get tripped up or knocked down again tomorrow or on Thursday when we play them, and Villa go there, and hopefully Villa can continue their winning run. Because 2 wins in this league early against 2 of the better teams that we have to play in, Bologna and Feyenoord.
Yep.
You begin to start kind of, start talking about what we're going to do in late January, early February. Then at that stage, 6 points, 12 points gets you into the next round, or gets you into automatic qualification. You'd imagine, if you've got 6 points from your first 2 games, you might be looking a small bit prettier, at that stage. And then we've got a run of absolute horror games coming up with Liverpool, Man City, Spurs coming up, So do we then pick and choose what games we play in that, or what teams we play then for the Europa games?
This is it, isn't it? That's the beauty of it. We can then rotate and put players in the European squad, as opposed to that murderous row of games that you quite correctly have alluded to. Looking forward to them and to see if we've upped their game enough to compete with those. But that's a story for another day. Let's get through tomorrow and Sunday, which has to be our focus. They did actually concede a goal to Fenerbahce in Europe at home when they went out of the Champions League. That was the only one. So they have conceded in Europe, but not domestically. And I expect them to concede tomorrow. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know who's going to start, but I expect us to go and put on a performance tomorrow night worthy of winning the game.
Yeah, I think so too. And look, I think again that, look, you've got Go Ahead Eagles next on the 23rd of October after this. So there's a bit of a break, obviously, with the international break. Then you've got the game that may not happen against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Then you've got Young Boys of Bern, both of those games at home. Then you finish off away at Basel, so it's you've got Basel, and you've got to finish off away at Fenerbahce, should I say, at home to Salzburg. So during that Christmas period or the build up to the Christmas period, you've got Go Ahead Eagles, you've got Maccabi Tel Aviv, you've got Young Boys of Bern. Not going to take any of them too lightly, but what I'm saying is 6 points after Feyenoord and Bologna, and we'd be in a pretty decent position then. You'd be hoping to be 9 points after Go Ahead Eagles. If Maccabi Tel Aviv are kicked out of the competition and we get the average of those points, that brings us to at least 11 points. You know, once again, we'll be doing permutations and stuff like that if the Israeli teams do get kicked out. But as I said, there's no news on that yet. I actually look. I said play all the teams and just see where the cards lie and see what happens there. But look, I'm it 2 wins gives you that massive footing. So I think he goes strong tomorrow or on Thursday. I think he goes strong. I think he respects the the tradition and the history of going back to this ground. I think he does. And I wonder, is there anything planned to mark Villa's first proper foray back to the Kuip since Peter Witt's Shin put us into the history books all those years ago. So it will be interesting. It will be interesting indeed. Will we listen to what Michael had to say, Paddy? We'll listen to what Michael Stedham had to say. I can pop that up here and try and play it for everybody. In the comments, guys, if you guys wouldn't mind letting us know if you can hear the audio on this. If you can't, pretty screwed. But if you can, it would be absolutely great. So this is we're trying to break new territory here. So let's see if you can hear this. And here we go. Podcast he spoke to us about AZ Alkmaar and about Ajax and we've had some really, really great conversations. But firstly, Michael, thank you so much for popping back on, and thank you for all the great work you do with Football Around You.
No, that's great. Yeah, love being on here talking about another tie between Villa and Dutch side.
It's becoming like that's 3 years in a row now. It's 3 years in a row, and three different oppositions, and three fabled and storied oppositions. I think within Dutch football as well. And talk to us, I suppose, really about Feyenoord currently, because a lot of people, I know the second I think of Feyenoord, first person I think of for some strange reason is Jean Dal Thomason. And I think of back to those days where they were, Feyenoord were always a team that you'd hate to draw in Europe because they were really, really competitive, and they still are. And even last year, you saw within the Champions League, they took the game to teams. Am I right in saying they beat AC Milan after this old Santiago Jimenez to AC Milan?
You put them in the spot there.
Wild there, wasn't there?
Bayern Munich 3-0 at home.
Yeah.
And what was actually quite a back-to-ball performance, but it's hard to compare the final of recent years to this season in particular, because Robin van Persie's coming as manager. I think that's had a bit of an impact, bit of a sway with where Feyenoord are at the moment. And I think he is probably more of a success story than, say, a Steven Gerrard, former player that was great. Mm-hmm. Van Persie's the other side of that, could actually be a good manager. He is a rookie manager, really, lots of respects. He's kind of, back to square one. He's got to learn and develop again in a different way. And he's getting more things right now, but this is another opportunity, a big test of Feyenoord to see just how good they actually are this season. Not saying that they are as good as, say, the Ajax team that did really well with the Champions League back in 2017-18. Feyenoord are still, though, a handy Eredivisie team. They've got some players that are very good, are very skillful, stand out. Their midfield is stacked with quality. And generally all over the pitch, they are equipped to handle a Premier League team challenge, where you are going to need some strength, you're going to need some guile, some intensity. And I think because this game's in De Kuip, of all the atmospheres in the Netherlands, this is the best one. Having experienced them for myself, I think this is where Villa have got themselves a big test in their hands. And I think Feyenoord can match that level of Villa in what could be a really good game.
Talk to us about some of the ingoings and outgoings that they've had over the course of the summer, because they were quite active. Obviously, they came down, they had the Champions League money, but and obviously some of the players that they've moved on as well. I hope people don't mind me saying, but I suppose the more illustrious clubs within Europe, like of Atletico Madrid and Marseille and Burnley, strangely enough, and Brentford. But they've traded an awful lot this off-season, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Igor Paixão was probably the best player in the Eredivisie. Left winger that got goals, got assists, could have come to the Premier League in the summer, but chose to move to France. He has not been fully replaced, and that's where Feyenoord kind of missed that quality on the left side of the attack. On the right side, they've still got Anit Musa, who is a really skillful, tricky winger You also appear in my podcast over in Football Anya, and we talk about him quite a lot over there. Some of the qualities that he has, some of the other players have on the team. I think he will be the major threat against Villa. Haj Musa will either have a touchline and he'll play from deep, or he will have his head down, he'll dribble and take 3 or 4 players on before delivering a cross or a shot. He is that direct kind of player. And really exciting to watch as well when you get him in those kind of areas in the final thirds. I mean, as for other outgoings this summer, David Hansko was quality centre-back that left the team. You've got a couple players that did go as well. I mean, Lambo and Hartman weren't the finished products, so I don't think Feyenoord are missing them greatly. But Hansko and Persie, for sure, 2 like high-quality players that we'd have loved at a team like Villa. Being a Villa fan myself as well, I can tell you both those players would have really increased the quality. But as the players they brought in, like they spent a really good amount of money for a Dutch team this summer. Pretty sure it's more than what Villa spent this summer. And they've brought in some interesting players, and also some that could always be flops, unfortunately, at the club. But I think that midfield with Quentin Timber, brother of Jurgen Timber, he's got that physicality, intensity, real battle in midfield. You've also got Sem Stein, attacking midfielder, who has a real nose for goal. He could easily score a goal. I would not be surprised at all if he scored against Villa. He's also the captain of the team as well. And Haj Musa. Those are those 3 for me that really stick out. In terms of quality levels, like this is a good team. The players have left for the likes of Atletico Madrid and Marseille. But they also bought Ahmedzovic in from Sheffield United to be their new centre back. Actually, it's quite good. It's like quite good physical centre back. Has answered a lot of questions that Feyenoord had in the defence. They've equipped themselves quite well, and they have good quality around the pitch. Covered some of those main ones. I think also just one more. If you think about Dutch teams, Feyenoord, you think about young players coming through. Javara Reed is a right back who has lots of potential. Could be that kind of like next big star when we talk about Dutch stars coming through. That at the age of, I think he's only 18 or 19, is playing regularly for Feyenoord, and that's pretty cool that he's there. And one of the vice captains as well already at young age.
Oh, so he's going to end up at Chelsea next year.
Yeah.
Jarrell had on Mark II. But yeah, and look, one of the biggest things I suppose about, and that's a fantastic kind of synopsis you gave us there. I would say about Sem Stein as well. He is definitely somebody that I think will definitely need to be corralled, and Boubacar Kamara get a good night's sleep, because you're going to have to follow him around the place there. And he is, it's kind of unusual as well that you bring somebody into the club, and he's not exactly an old player. What is he, 22, 23?
Something around there, yeah. And has quite a mature head on him, and
that's it. Like they bring him in.
Sorry, I was say he's deceptively short, because he will get on the end of things in the box and cause havoc from that perspective too.
Yeah, and they've brought him in and made him captain almost immediately.
Yeah,
that's not usual. That's not usual, specifically for someone that young. But I was saying there that the hotbed of Dutch football, I suppose, really, the fact that the one thing I love about Dutch football is that if you're good enough, you're old enough. You said that they're vice captain, they're 18 years of age, playing right back. I know there's a lot of Villa fans that will be watching this going, my God, I wish we had a splattering of 17, 18-year-olds that we could trust it in the team. The Premier League isn't really lending itself to that currently at the moment, and I think that's one of the bigger shames. That's why I watch an awful lot of European football, because you get to see that unadulterated, that unbridled type of raw, natural talent as well, which is exciting. It's the most exciting type of talent, and you get to see, because in the Premier League you get your Wayne Rooneys every so often, but it's coached out of a lot of players. But so I must agree, and that young guy Reed, he's quite promising as well. You mentioned about Robin van Persie. Van Persie is who Van Persie is, and a lot of people here will probably be looking at their game versus Braga, where they lost 1-0. Talk to us about the story behind that, because Van Persie had a little bit of a clap back at some of the Dutch media with regards to prior to that game, which ultimately probably affected the outcome of the game to his detriment.
Yeah, so in their first Europa League game, decided to make 7 changes. The team is like utterly rotated. Second choice players all over the pitch. A front 3 of players who they signed over the summer, but all like flops. Borges, it's just pace. Tegsted, not really doing that well as a striker. It was like Benfica's third or fourth choice striker, and there's some reason they splurged millions on him. And the fans have been saying, the media have been asking, where's this player? Where's this player? We want to see them play. Van Persie decides to play them all in one game, and then says to the media, "Well, you said to me, where's this player? Where's it?" And I play them. So I think it's quite funny that you are coming back at me now, like Case going, "Look who's laughing now." It's like, but you lost the game. Really weird reaction. And he has done this a few times in the media, learning from his rookie manager mistakes that he has been. You kind of understand it, but some of it you look at from an outside and you think, wasn't that a little bit obvious? Like, what, you rotate most of your team as Feyenoord in Europe. I think he's taking a leaf out of his own book, maybe as a player, when Man United might rotate their team and still have the quality to win. It's not the same for Feyenoord. They've got quite a few good players in reserve, especially midfield, but you do it all over the pitch and it's not the same side. And yeah, it was a flat performance, but it's not what you would normally expect from Feyenoord, especially at home. In De Kuip, they'll probably go full strength and it'll be an atmosphere. It'll be an occasion. The players will be stepping up in quality. They know they're putting themselves on the stage for other teams to see them in the future. Players that play in the Netherlands, they typically either want to play in Italy, the Premier League, or Barcelona. Like, that's their dreams. If you ask about their dreams, that's what they'll tell you. And those players know against a Premier League team, it's an advert for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was reading online as well that I won't say criticism, but a question that always comes up is, does Robin van Persie know who his best goalkeeper is?
Yeah, it's going to happen at both clubs. When he was at Heerenveen, his first club, he had a problem with a keeper that had played for the Netherlands in the World Cup, and said, "Oh, I'm not going to have a first choice keeper, but needs to put confidence in one of his goalkeepers." And when he did so, it went better for him. The guy that coming after him did that, and it worked. Feyenoord, he's got Bilo, who nearly went to Southampton. Thank goodness he didn't before they got relegated. Vellenrauter as well. 2 good level goalkeepers. He said, "I'm going to go with Bilo as my first choice." And then he got injured, because that's what Bilo does. He could have been such a good Dutch national team goalkeeper. And then you got Vellenrauter now, who, operates at a good level, good shot stopper. But it's another mistake that he's made as a manager. When he first started, he was very attacking in a 4-3-3 formation. And that's kind of like reining that back in now that he's at Feyenoord. And it has worked, to be fair to him. I do believe that since he took charge at Feyenoord picked the most points out of any team in the Dutch league. So that's going well. The top of the league already to start the season, but now needs to have some more performances in Europe. A couple of look quite promising we've seen from him so far, but also a couple of ones where you go, that could be managed a bit better if you are a good level coach.
And what about the wonderfully talented and brilliant only Irish player on the Feyenoord team, Liam Bosson, not getting a sniff at goals at all? No, he's not. He's
not
definitely
at all,
not.
Unfortunately,
no. I think he's been a Feyenoord for a couple of years now, but he's definitely just there to make up the numbers in training. It's a one of those crazier stories of played for Ireland under 21s. I think it was about 11 or 12 years ago now, but he was born and raised in Belgium. I think he went on loan to Cork City for like 4 or 5 games at one stage, but that was just to prove that he'd set foot in Ireland soil, I think, at that stage. That's Liam Bosson, the third goalkeeper for Feyenoord. Feyenoord striker at the moment, the Japanese guy, Ueda. How do you pronounce his name? Is it Ueda?
Ayase Ueda.
Ueda. He's an interesting player, and the reason I say that is that he's never been terribly prolific in any team he's played in previously, but he's almost matched his goal total from last year in the first however many games in the league this season. And he seems to be like somebody like a lot of Japanese strikers. They tend to catch lightning in a bottle when they hit 27, 28 years of age. So he's going to need minding, I think, the week or on Thursday as well.
Something to note about him is, since he's been working with Van Persie, who was of course a very good striker himself, positionally, he is really good at getting half a yard now within the box. He's not the strongest, not necessarily the quickest, but is very good with his feet. can work himself a bit of space, but also now getting on the end of crosses more because of his ability for example, this goal against Groningen, he stepped one way, and then when the cross comes in, he goes the other way, and the defender's gone, and he's lost him, so he can get the header in. I think that's what I've noticed from him this season, is that improvement with getting room for himself, whether when he's on the ball or off it, and that's how he's getting more opportunities for himself.
And it's showing because he's actually taking those opportunities, and it's interesting because we played against Bologna in the first game in Europa League, and you'll obviously know, being a Villa fan as well yourself, that Santiago Castro got around the field and got in between our centre halves a couple of times, and the header that he had that went off the crossbar was a very well worked header for himself, movement in the box. So Villa will need to be on their toes for that, and it'll be interesting to see what their centre half partnership will be. Although I'd say Tyrone Mings will be out, so it'll probably end up being Konza and Torres. So they need to keep their head in a swivel from that point of view too. That midfield that the Feyenoord have, Villa are going to need to match. We spoke about Sam Stein already, but they're going to need to match that work rate in there for sure, because that's like, it's the old adage of an engine room of the team. Feyenoord really worked that engine room through that midfield. Yeah,
Timber, like I say, is that physical workhorse, but also very capable on the ball. Danger from outside the box as well with his shooting. I really like him. I think a player that's come in more recently is Targajim. And he is defensively, he's quite a small player, but almost like Karim El Amadi, who played for both Feyenoord and Villa, likes getting his tackles in. That kind of player. I think he's really handy. But then Hwang In-beom, his more creative players, just returned to fitness. He could come in and easily do a job there. So Feyenoord they've got options and can bring fresh players on later in the game.
And they do that, like they rotate their midfield and they bring players off, and they do try to keep it fresh in there from what I've seen as well. So that'll be interesting. You mentioned about Haj Musa and that right back or that right wing position. You said that he could be Ballon d'Or for 10 minutes and he could be out the door for another 10 minutes. He's kind of up and down. As a Villa fan, I suppose that left back position has been pretty okay over the last couple of seasons. But even against Bologna, we did relinquish a lot of crosses in there. We had a wily old fox, Bernardeschi, was playing down that wing there. He was able to get space. He was able to get crosses in. He was able to dictate play from down there. Are Feyenoord very much driven down that right-hand side, as you might, because you've called out the right winger and the right fullback there as being names of interest for Villa fans?
Yeah, a lot of their danger will go down that wing. You give Haj Musa the ball, watch what happens. just enjoy him and just try and step out of the Villa shoes for a minute, and you'll go, wow, that's a good footballer. But then I suppose if he starts first 10 minutes as bad as he can be sometimes, then you'll be like, oh, that guy on that Villa podcast didn't know very much, did he? But just give him time. Like, he'll be bad 1 minute, brilliant the next. And it's Haj Musa.
And that's the thing with Villa is, like, a player this season, players have only needed to be good for that 1 minute to profit on Aston Villa. We saw it against Brentford. Atuara comes on. He took his chance. When Villa made a mistake, he was brilliant in that moment. When Villa made a mistake, made two mistakes for his goal. And that's very much been the case with Villa this year, that when they've made a mistake, the other team have been flawless in that moment. So, minding those players is top of the list, I think, for Aston Villa at the moment. Those players who can be sublime or ridiculous in from 1 minute to the next is definitely something that they need to look at. And again, I'm harping on this as well, but even at the weekend against Fulham, that pace from out wide, the Josh Kings coming in off that wing, with the direct, fast running, bit of skill, caused Villa a bit of hassle in that first half as well. And Villa really had to tweak their tactics kind of to stifle that. So it's definitely the type of player I don't want to see bearing down on Aston Villa's goal at the moment, specifically if they're given time and space. Good insight.
Yeah, I was trying to think when's the last time Villa came up against someone that had so much influence on the play, a winger that had so much influence on the proceedings. I mean, you come up against so many technically very good teams in the Premier League where they have that balance of like star players across the front three and striker, whereas it's going to be concentrated quite a lot down that right side. Can Villa handle that? Can they find a way to stop that threat, especially with Reed running on the outside, who can also be a threat going forwards? But Hadji Musa has got that skill set to take as many players on as he can, drag people out of position in the box, and then play a ball in. Yeah, on the opposite side, they've got Leo Sauer, who would start, I guess, if they're going to go full strength Feyenoord. Young player, can equip himself quite well. He's got a good left foot, but yeah, nothing like Hadji Musa on the other side.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. It's been really, really interesting there. And as always, you are the go-to guy that I have for any English language. Unfortunately, my Dutch isn't up to scratch, so I have to go look for English language content. And you're my first port of call, specifically with anything to do with Eredivisie. And even that, I've listened to your podcast a lot over the last year, and watched it. And when you start talking about players, I go, "Oh, never heard of that fella before. I'm going to take a look at him myself." So it's always good to immerse yourself in other leagues, because the one thing that grinds my gears is, and specifically, and I don't know why it is with League One the whole time, why League One is just referred to as a farmers league. I've no idea where that came from, but it seems to now be in common parlance in footballing circles. Yet every team is delighted to sign a player from League One. Yet when you play against a team that isn't PSG, it's a farmers league all of a sudden. I don't know. So broaden your surroundings, guys. Broaden your horizons. Look at other leagues. Look at young players, as I said, and make sure that you know who's good before they become good. And then that you get a good sense of solace from that. And you'll be able to do that through Michael and his Football Around Your podcast as well. So thanks a million, Michael. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time as always. And this is your hat-trick appearance, I think, on the podcast. No, it's more. It's more because you've been on from Matson and Daniel Mallon as well. So this could be even your quintuple appearance. What's a hatful? Is that 4 or 5? I don't know. I better shut up now anyway, because it's pseudoephedrine. It's coursing through my veins with this cold. Is really kicking in now. But I do appreciate your time, Michael. Thank you so much. And everybody go check out the Football Around Your podcast as well. So thanks. Yeah, so that was a little piece I did with Michael Statham from the Football Around Your podcast yesterday. And thanks again to Michael for popping on. His insight is second to none, regards to anything Eredivisie. So I really trust his insight with regards to that. And he's a good guy as well, good Villa fan too. And he's I did a piece for him on his podcast as well. So if you want to go and check out that, we talk about some different things in that podcast as well. So give it a whirl. Michael is one of the good guys. For sure. Before we finish up here as well, I just wanted to give a shout out as well to one of the 2 football prizes. Football prizes are you guys who might have seen me tweet stuff or post stuff about football prizes before. They're running a competition at the moment, and the QR code up in the top right hand or the top left hand corner up here. This part up here. If you scan that QR code, it'll bring you directly to the page that's hosting the latest Aston Villa giveaway. And that latest Aston Villa giveaway it's a bit of a banger, to be honest with you. You can win 2 hospitality tickets to Aston Villa versus Man City, and there's also 147 instant prizes up for grabs, which includes £1,000 tax-free in cash, 4 hospitality tickets to Wolves, 2 hospitality tickets to Bournemouth, John McGinn signed shirt, Ollie Watkins signed shirt, Morgan Rogers signed shirt, and 5 £100 tax-free cash instant wins as well, amongst other things. So if you guys are interested and you want to click on that, tickets are 39 pence per ticket, and it stays ongoing. The competition stays ongoing till the 3rd of October, which is this Friday at 7:29. That's football prizes. If you guys are interested in that, and you want to get your hands and potentially win some cash and also win some signed Aston Villa gear, or maybe even win some hospitality tickets as well, that might be a good one for you guys there. So that's football prizes, and you can find them at football prizes on Twitter as well, where they do all their good work. So thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. We will wait with bated breath, I suppose, for more news from Unai Emery, any press conferences, and we will see you again for the Team Sheet Tantrum and the post-match podcast on Thursday. at the weekend, we may be a small little bit off. We might not have podcasts at the weekend. The reason being is Paddy is going to be at the Burnley game. And I'm also going to be in the UK, but I'm going to be at the Tottenham Stadium to watch the NFL. I see Carrie put in there earlier. Were any of us at the where are we? Were any of us at the NFL here in Ireland? No, I didn't get to get up to it. I wouldn't have gone to see the Steelers in Croke Park. I think I was currently writing a petition to never allow the Steelers back into Croke Park because it's not what our what the guys in 1916 died for. That's a joke, by the way. But I didn't go up to Croke Park, but it was supposed to be a massively brilliant day, and I'm going to go to the Tottenham Stadium at the weekend to watch the Cleveland Browns versus the Vikings. And unfortunately, I was supposed to go. I was hoping that the Burnley game would be on the Monday as opposed to being on the Sunday, so that we could get so that I could go to that. But I wasn't thinking straight because we obviously wouldn't have it on the Monday and then have a European game on the Thursday. So, alas, I had to forego my tickets that I had for Burnley this weekend as well. So, yeah, so keep an eye out. We mightn't be able to do our regular programming this weekend. But also then again, stranger things have happened, and I have gone on from stranger places than an NFL game at the Tottenham Stadium to do a team sheet tantrum about Aston Villa. So keep an eye out on social media for that to see how we're fixed to do team sheet tantrums then. But thanks so much everybody for joining us. It's going to be a nice build up to excuse me, to this game on Thursday. Nice historic game, back to the scene of the crime, if you want to call it, in the Kipe. So everybody, immerse yourself in Aston Villa. Hopefully our continued rise and our continued uptick happens, or continues, should I say. There's a lot of continues there in a row on Thursday, and we'll be here for the team sheet tantrum and the post-match podcast as well. So in the meantime, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.